Awesome. We are live. I am so excited.
Yes.
So I'm eager to have this conversation. I'm happy that we're going live. There's so many things that I feel like is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah.
Everyone, hello, and thank you for joining us today on Entrepreneurial Truth. Today I have Mariah Pettry on, and she is going to tell us a little bit about her story, her journey, how she got from where she was to where she is now. I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Yes, ma'am. First of all, I'm so grateful that you brought me on here. It was such a good conversation, and I feel like we're just gonna like continue going.
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed.
so I'm Mariah, and I have 7 years sober from heroin. I um went through a really long period in my life where I hated God. And I thought that He was the reason why everything happened in my life, from abuse as a child in my teenage years. And then I got mixed up in drugs and alcohol at a really young age, which led into harder drugs around 18, 19. And so after I had my son, I actually kept using and lost custody of him, and it all went downhill from there. So, excuse me, whenever I lost him, I felt like I really spiraled out of control because I felt like, well, I don't really have anything to live for at this point. And so I went to 26 rehabs, I had 12 overdoses. Um, I had lost custody of him. I was homeless. I was a prostitute. I was just really, really lost. And I thought that God was the reason for all of this. And like, if you're so mighty, why couldn't you have fixed it? Why couldn't you have stopped these things from happening? And so I remember 2 weeks before I went to jail, I had got down on my knees, and I was so broken and had lost all of my dignity at this point. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know, what my life was going to look like, if it was going to get any better. And I had tried everything. So I got down on my knees and I said, God, if you're real, I've tried everything else. If you're real, you're going to get me out of this situation. And kind of like telling him what to do. Like, if you're real, prove to me. And 2 weeks later, and I also said, if you get me out of this, I'll be a warrior for you. I'll be a soldier for you. Just get me out of it. I don't care. I need your help. And so I continued in my mess for the next 2 weeks, and then I went to jail. And from jail, they said, so we have one option for you to get out of here, and that's a faith-based rehab. It's a year-long program. You have, like, if you can either stay here or you can go. And I was like, of course. Like, thanks God, right? I didn't see it as a good thing at the time, but whenever I went, that's whenever my whole life changed. And so from there, I actually stayed the full year, and then I stayed an extra year helping the women come in.
Wow. Wow. And I know that's the shorter version of what happened. But your story is a true testament that you can be in one position in one space in your life and you can truly change your life, right?
Yeah.
And can you just talk about that change and what that looks like today, where you are?
Yes. Yeah. So I went through this period whenever I first got to that rehab of anger. Like, I was angry, but I wasn't angry at anybody but myself. Like, whenever somebody comes out of addiction, they're looking at life like, how do these normal people function without wanting drugs every single day? How do people take care of their kids, and how do they do laundry and dishes, just like the basic things that you have to like relearn all over again. And a lot of people don't realize that, but once you've been on the streets for so long, and it's like learning a whole new culture, it was really, really difficult to kind of come out of that. But whenever I did, what kind of shifted for me was, okay, I'm stuck here. I'm going to try and make the most of it. So about 3 months in, I finally gave in and I started reading the Bible. And after I graduated, one of my favorite Bible verses was Genesis 50:20. And it says, "For you intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position to save the lives of many people through God, through us," right? And so I was like, so what I went through has a purpose. What I went through, I can use to help other people. So I stayed an extra year in that rehab helping these women, and it helped heal a part of me too. So after that year, so after I graduated, I actually met my husband, and I got pregnant. So for that extra year I was there, I was pregnant the whole time, but I was still helping the women. And I got a car and I got a job. And after I had my daughter, I got my son back. I moved in with my husband, and now we own a home and we have cars in the driveway. But after learning how to be a wife and a mother again, I felt God kind of tug at my heart a little bit, like, you remember that soldier statement? Do you remember you said you'd go to war with me? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I applied for school, and I'm currently working towards my master's to become a therapist. And then I have a couple minors in marketing and sales. But I didn't want to wait that 8-year period to help people. And I learned I could become a coach. So, but at the time I didn't have any money at all. And so I had to, I worked it all out. I was a trauma coach for 3 years, and then I shifted to the business and marketing niche about 1.5 years ago. So, yeah.
You know, your story is phenomenal because it teaches people that where you are doesn't mean that's where you're going to be, right? And you don't have to be stuck. You can move on, you can change your life, you can do all these things.
Yeah.
Looking back at that person, what advice would you give her? You know, if there's someone out there that is stuck in the same way, or even you giving yourself advice, that younger version of you, what advice would you give?
Honestly, I would look at old me, or I would talk to that person, but if it was old me, who is a lot of the people in the world, right? I mean, a lot of those people are in that same spot. What I wanted the most was just for somebody to hug me, to walk up to me and hug me and let me know that there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. Or that I would say, there's nothing wrong with you. Like it's just that, and you can do it, but don't think that just because you haven't been able to do it so far that it's still not possible. It is possible. It can happen. Man, if old me could have walked up to or if new me could have walked up to old me, I wouldn't believe it. I really wouldn't. I'd probably smack myself. I'd be like, who are you? Because I was a completely different person, like you have to turn into like a completely different person to survive. And I was in survival mode. And whenever you're in that, you can't really hear or take anything in. So it's really, really difficult. I think that the Maslow's hierarchy of needs kind of comes in there. Take care of the physical needs first. So you feed them, you can give them maybe like a blanket or water or anything like that. Help them with their physical needs, and then you can start working up from there. Like their like basic needs, their psychological needs, then help them become the person that God intended them to be.
Awesome. So, I mean, a lot has happened in your life, right? So how did you, or when did you decide that the best way for you to go would be to become an entrepreneur instead of a 9 to 5? Like,
yeah. Yes. So after losing custody of my son once, I really had this guilt as a mother that I needed to be with them all the time. And my husband was like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to work. It's okay. I can go to work. You can stay with the kids. And I also didn't really trust too many people either because I'd seen a lot and I'd been through a lot. So I knew that I wanted to stay home. And I didn't really want to trust. I know that probably sounds bad, but I didn't really trust too many people. And I also felt like I needed to make up for lost time with my son as well. He was 5 whenever I got him back. And so I'm glad I got it together, by then, but it was still a long span. Like most of his formative years and his developmental years had already passed. And so I really wanted to spend time with him and find a way that I could go to school, but I could still work from home and still be with them.
Awesome. And the people that you're coaching now, are you coaching them more like in life or in entrepreneurship or in marketing? What areas are you specializing in?
Yes. So what I do is I am a marketing expert. So I help women, Christian women, with their businesses and their marketing side of things. And then I'm also like, I consult them on what the gaps are. But before we get into that, our mental health is a direct result of our business's profitability. And so if you are not in a good mental state, if you're still holding on to any kind of trauma from your past, it's going to show up in your marketing. It's going to show up in your business. It's going to stop you from taking risks. You're going to feel imposter syndrome. You're going to feel inadequate and sometimes even like question if you should be doing this in the first place. So where does that come from? And I help them work with that. And then after we've gotten solid in who we are, whose we are, and what God's mission for our life is, then we can start getting into like the meat and potatoes.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And I love that. I love the fact that you start there. Like, what are the blocks? What's stopping you from becoming the best version of yourself? And I feel like we all have that in some way, whether we acknowledge it or not. It's just getting through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are some of the top tips that you would recommend someone to identify whether or not they have blocks?
So this is a tricky question but it's good though. So it's good. So I think that everyone kind of deep down knows. It's just a matter of becoming aware of it. So say somebody goes to post a video on Instagram and they're or a reel on Instagram and they're looking at it and they're editing it and then they're like, well, that sounds stupid. In their mind, well, that sounds stupid. Nobody's going to like this. Nobody is, going to pay attention to me. Everybody's going to swipe. And then they just leave Instagram and delete the video. That is your mindset. That is a block. That is I don't feel adequate enough to post this. But in the beginning, I think, so that's just an example. The biggest thing is we have to chase after failure in the beginning. Chase after it, because every time that you fail, it's an opportunity to learn what went right, what went wrong, and how we can do better next time. So I think that would be it, like chase after failure. So what if that video is stupid? So what if it only gets 1 view or 1 like? Keep posting and keep doing it and staying consistent, and of course make sure that it's valuable, but you know what I'm trying to say. So keep posting, being consistent. I mean, like, don't just go on there and be like, be a dream chaser today and something super vague, right? But another thing I think that I was getting ready to say something and I lost it. I'm going off track here. I'm all over the place too.
No. So you were talking about just staying consistent, and that is one of the best advice like that you can give. Just keep showing up.
Yeah. And chasing after the failure. And really, I think too is the data and the insights. Not a lot of people look at that. Not a lot of people are looking at the insights on their Instagram or their Facebook. They're not looking at those. Sometimes it's hard for people to read or understand
Understand.
it.
Right.
Right, but it's very, very important.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that. I mean, understanding the data is definitely probably the number one thing, and two, not reading too much into the data at the same time, right? If you're just starting
Right.
out, I feel like the key is to just be consistent and
Mhm.
just keep posting. And I've told numerous people, clients, friends, listen, if you're going to go into the space, right, where you're going to have any kind of business, you have to be you have to put yourself out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, you have to put yourself out there one way or the other. And a lot of people don't like doing it because they either don't like showing their face, they have some sort of insecurity around it, they feel some sort of way. And I understand. I can empathize because, again, I know we've had a conversation as to, even why I started this podcast. You
Yes.
know, I
Yeah.
mean, everyone has their trauma that they're trying to overcome. Um, but the key is essentially to start. And
Yeah.
after hearing your story, I'm telling you, it makes a lot of people, including myself, I'm like, well, uh, we all talk about trauma, but then there's trauma and then there's trauma.
Yeah.
Not to minimize anyone's trauma or what they're going through, but yeah, the fact that you're on the opposite side of this is phenomenal. And I know one of the questions I had asked
Thank you.
before that I want to share with everyone is, the courage that it takes to be where you are, doing what you're doing, showing up every day. Is a true testament that, it's possible.
Yeah.
It is possible to be this version.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the problem is we're seeking people's approval rather than God's. And
Mm,
we start to admire. I mean, the reality of this is if you are posting for likes and views and comments more so than for your business, then you're making money for Meta. You're not making money for your business. You're paying Meta and Facebook and Instagram if you're more worried about the likes and the views, which they are good and they do help you grow. But if you can just reach one or two people who see your video, a lot of us think that 100,000 followers equals clients, and that's not true. I've had clients before who've had 500,000 followers on their Instagram, and they can't get a client because
mhm,
it's about your messaging and the trust that people they feel connected to you. And
yeah.
like you said, that courage, that risk taking thing of building the brand, the unique identity that God gave you. That's what people are looking for. They just want that relatability right now.
They want someone that they can connect to.
Yeah.
And connection is hard. Connection is really, really hard. Connecting with people, and a lot of everything that we're watching, for the most part, is not relatable because they're not really connecting. And I've had this conversation a million times. It's like, when I have the recording and we're recording, it's like, oh yeah. And then we get off, everybody's like, oh yeah, so this is what I wanted to say. And I'm like, well, why didn't you say it? Right?
Yes.
They bring the thunder and the excitement. And I'm like, this is the information that people want. They need. They,
Right.
again, when I was looking for information online to help me get from being stuck to unstuck, I
Yeah.
couldn't find it. I couldn't find content that was relatable, entrepreneurs that had gone through the same thing,
Yeah.
people going through any kind of trauma. Like, what's how do you go through that? And I want to dive into that with you.
Yeah.
If you're stuck somewhere, an entrepreneur is listening to this and they're stuck,
Mm.
what are some techniques or methods that they can use or implement to kind of get them unstuck to get to the next step?
Okay, so the first step is going to be completely controversial, but I believe that the first step that needs to happen if you are stuck in your business and your mind's turning and you're constantly on Chat GPT and you're trying to do your website and you're all over the place, the first thing that needs to happen is you need to take a rest. You need to take 2 to 3 days of just refocus, like a reset. You need a 2 to 3 day reset so you can get your mind back in a place where God can use you and where you are coming from a place of, this is genuine. This isn't too forceful, right? Because once we get in that stuck position, we get into survival mode and we start freaking out. I mean, am I wrong there? Like, do you
Yeah.
agree? We start really spazzing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I believe the first step is rest and really jotting down some ideas, getting into the Bible. That's what I had to do. And it really helped me getting into the word and looking at the Bible in terms of your business. So, God, what do you want me to see? What do you want me to gather from this reading right now, from reading my Bible? From this scripture right now, how can I apply this to my business? And he'll show you what you need to do, and it'll really help you just get back into that mindset of, okay, I know God called me to do this. I know I'm supposed to be here. I know what I'm supposed to do. I need to get back into it. So that's just the first step. And then coming back to it, it's the same. It's the consistency. So if you do nothing else, I think that consistency, even if it's posting 3 times a week and sending out one email to your email list once a week or every other week, and then, whatever those basic money-making activities are, engaging, not just posting, but engaging with your audience, just kind of having like a checklist that I'm getting ready to make, by the way. I'm getting ready to make it money-making checklist of things that you need, of what a business owner needs to do on a weekly basis, because sometimes there's a lot going on in the background that entrepreneurs are doing that not everybody sees.
No. I think unless you're an entrepreneur or have been an entrepreneur or in the entrepreneurial space, you do not understand or have a concept as to what it takes on a daily basis. It is a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. And if you don't have a team, if you're a one-man band, it's even harder. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even entrepreneurs themselves don't understand how much it takes, right? So when you jump into the space, you think that you can do all the things because you're superhuman. And,
right.
and you don't give yourself grace. And I think that's one of the most important lessons that I learned is grace, right? Just stepping into that, I made a mistake here, or I'm not doing this perfectly, but sometimes imperfect action is better than inaction.
Right. Exactly. And that grace, though, like during that time of rest is like, it's okay. We're gonna, and that's even that's like a time to reflect on, because if you can't sit and stop for a minute, and I mean, even God rested on the 7th day, and I mean, he really wants us to take care of ourselves so that we're able to serve those. And sometimes I feel like I get in that too. I completely forget that I'm serving God's people and that is my job. It's not just like a money-making thing. It's also the biggest part, and the whole reason why I started this business is to serve and to help women and to make a ripple effect in the world with businesses, and so stopping to rest and being showing grace towards ourselves like God's doing for us, I think is a really, really big point. That was good.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you're out there every day, and that there's so many of us now stepping into that role where we're out here trying to serve people that need to be served and meet them where they're at and help them to get from point A to point B. I think it is necessary. We need it more than ever, and we need to be providing the right kind of guidance.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people, I've heard some people talk about mindset, but it is a big piece of it. It really is. You cannot have a successful business if your mindset isn't in a space of, resilience. First of all, I mean, you have to have so much resilience to build a business, because you're going to get rejected. You're going to get, negative comments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the first reel is the hardest. The
Mm-hmm.
first troll is the meanest.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody sucks first. I mean, it's just, a lot of it. And then we take it personal. That's
Mm-hmm.
another thing. We take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever it really probably isn't even about us. It's just somebody else's brokenness on the other side of the screen trying to project onto us. So, I could talk about that all day long, but I'm not going to.
No, you know what? It is good. You have to take the good and the bad, You when you decide to put yourself out there, there is gonna be both, and you have to understand that that's okay too, right?
Right.
You just have to mentally prepare yourself before you do it, And you know, for me, I know it took me years to get over like everything I was going on, because there were so many stories that I told myself in my head,
Yes.
And those things can be crippling,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, from what you went through too, I mean, that I know that you said that there's trauma and then there's trauma. Well, I think that, and I say this all the time as an example, like, I know that I went through things, but my family went through even worse. Like, they went through more trauma than I did, because I was numb the whole time. I wasn't feeling anything. I had no idea what was going on. I was basically asleep for 10 years,
Wow.
And so my family felt the trauma worse than I did. So anybody who has a loved one who is addicted or an alcoholic, or even gambling or some kind of addiction, they are you feel it worse than what the addict or alcoholic feels it, because they're constantly numbing that pain that you're trying that you are feeling. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I can attest to it. Like, even my family, my kids, when I was going through all the things, and I'm trying to put on this brave face for my kids. I mean, they are the ones that are, talking about how they felt in the moment, what was going on with them, what anxieties, and I mean, they end up with anxiety or depression or whatever else based on how you're feeling, because you're the parent and you're not feeling well, or you're sad, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has a ripple effect on your family. And again, not many people speak about it, and I'm glad we're able to share, because I want people to know, and everyone listening, that they're not alone if they're going through whatever it is they're going through. They're
Right.
not alone. There's someone else going through the same thing, putting on a brave face and showing up every day doing the thing.
Yes,
Right?
that's right. Exactly. I mean, what you went through was just as, I mean, it's just as difficult. I think we all I think we all go through these like periods of life where it's just really hard to handle, but God gives us this survival instinct to keep going. And so we can be what is that called? Like functioning. Like, we are
Right.
functioning with anxiety and depression and stress. I mean, we're just like very high functioning on our computers, but behind every entrepreneur, we are a nervous wreck. I mean, there's a lot going on. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is 100% accurate. And if you're to give that entrepreneur that's struggling, what resources did you find out there when starting your business to help you in the space? Or are you the resource?
good question. So I think I spoke to you about this like the first time that we talked. The problem that I see nowadays is I mean, on my feed, on my Instagram feed and on my Facebook feed, I see all day long, I have this perfect strategy. It's going to work for you. It works for everyone. I've had 10 million clients and they've all used it and been successful. And you're like, you're grabbing at that. And then you see the next one and they have the perfect strategy. The thing is they've found a perfect strategy for their exact audience, for their exact situation, how much time they have, etc. So each individual entrepreneur, and I learned this the hard way, they all need a very personalized strategy, sales system, and they need their own like very unique messaging and content. It all needs to be super personalized, because whenever I first began, I had no money. I couldn't afford a coach. I couldn't afford somebody to build my website or build my funnels or do my social media or learn marketing. Like, I hadn't even taken my marketing courses yet at school. And so I learned it all from scratch and from trial and error. And it took me about a year to kind of figure it all out. But I built my website on WordPress of all things. So I learned WordPress all by myself and watching YouTube videos. And then even at that, ChatGPT can only take you so far. Eventually, you're not going to find the answers that you need for your specific situation. And you're going to have to come to somebody who knows what they're doing, who knows how to help you, and can really figure out, based on data and research, what your audience needs. And then look at you and figure out how much time you have in a day and in a week, and how much interaction you're going to have with your clients. There's so much that goes into it, that a business has to be personalized. And that is my honest opinion, and what I've seen, and what I've tried to do myself over and over, and apply different strategies. And whenever nothing works, it's a big sign that you do need help. You need somebody to come in and help you. Does that answer your question? Or was that?
No, it does. So basically, you're an entrepreneur running a business and you're looking for the right resources. Just try and find what works, right? What works for you. Try and find the additional resources and people that kind of relate to your style of business. Once you get in there, you'll see whether or not it's the right fit or not, because not every course is the right course. Not every person is the right person.
Right, exactly. And also what I did, which was extremely helpful, is I ran a beta program. And my first business I took on, in my trauma coaching business, I took on about 3 or 4 free clients. And I learned the messaging. I mean, like, your messaging is if you have a beta program and you take and you say, hey, I have 3 spots open for a free coaching program. It's a month long, and we're going to talk to me 4 times, once a week. And you let them know that, then that you're gathering data. I know that you're like, oh, well, I don't want to do it for free. You're not. This is juicy information. This is your business and your audience coming and what they need coming straight from the horse's mouth. Like, you can gather so much information from those free clients. And that's what I did. And I paid attention to the words they used. What is bothering you the most? What is stopping you? What are you doing on a Monday? What are you doing on a weekend? What are you doing? What are you craving? If you saw this solution, what would it be? And that you would jump after, so really trying to, and that's how you can gather data for free. And a lot of people take coaching for free too. I mean, they'll hop right on that. So that's what I did.
And here's the benefit, right? There's so many Facebook groups that you can hop into. There's so many groups all over that you can find where your ideal client lives, that you can hop in and say, hey, listen, I'm willing to help 2 people today, or I'm willing to help this many people, and lay it out. Hey, listen, I'm willing to help this many people around this subject, and you can feel it. So maybe you might not like it, you know, they may not be your ideal audience, but then when you meet them, you'll know, hey, listen, I don't like serving this group. I don't like serving, and then you can find your people, your tribe. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Because another thing is we're trying to find our ideal client, but at the same time, there's some people who just aren't a right fit for
Right.
you. I mean,
Right.
you have your own, like, we matter too, right?
Mhm.
So we're the business owner, we matter too, and what we want to serve those who are going to be, appreciative, and who are going to be kind, and who are going to be receptive to our work with them, right? Somebody who's going to work.
Mhm.
We help them, but they also, I believe that clients also need to be receptive to the work as well, and they need to put in just as much work.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's a huge thing you touched on. Being appreciative. Um, it's huge, and I find in today's society that it's so hard to have. I mean, whether it doesn't matter where you go, people
Yeah.
aren't nice. They're just not nice. They just don't know how to respect the other person giving them the service, and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that I think that we're lacking. I think it's something that we need to work on as a society. I think
Yeah.
we need to have understanding and really try and walk in the other person's shoe.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Whew, preach, girl. I'm telling you that it's so sad. And I'm trying to raise my kids to be respectful and
hmm
things like that. But it's just like, where did the respect go? It's like the country is like turning on each other, and there's people turning on each other. And yeah, I agree to just be kind. Nobody really knows what that other person's going through anyways. You
no,
know?
they don't, and it's always an assumption. Like you're here to serve me,
Right.
right? But they don't understand or have a clue as to what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And again, that's where that word grace comes in.
Mhm.
Um, that self-centered nature needs
Yeah.
to there needs to be a shift in that, and I think there is a shift happening. um when I speak to more people, and just every day talking to more people on this podcast, I'm like, wow, there's so many amazing people out there. And I
Yes.
think that our voices need to be louder than the other voices that are out there, because I
Mhm.
really feel like the impact that can be made is going to be way greater than the impact that's being made now.
Yes, that's so true. I'm glad you said that because I didn't want to seem like a snob. Like, everybody's so rude. Like, I'm not, you know, there are so many good people out there too. So yeah, absolutely. And just kind of being that louder voice. I like that. I mean, God gave us a light for a reason, and our light isn't meant to be hidden. We're supposed to put our light on top of the world and show everybody, God's grace, and be the Jesus that maybe some people have never even seen. That was my problem whenever I was in addiction, and why I hated God so bad is because I judged God through people, and through the
Whoa.
people who had been mean to me, and the churches who had been mean to me, and who had shunned me and made me feel nasty. And so, yeah, I judged God through people. And I know that's, and it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. Well, that's what a lot of people are doing. People are
hmm
judging God through Christians, right? And there's uh, to not be judgmental, to be kind, to be it takes nothing to be kind. It just takes an utterance of just one nice thing to say to somebody rather than being mean. Like my
Yep.
mama said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say
Don't say
nothing at
anything
all.
at all. Exactly. 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 All right. Well, how can everyone find you?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I have a website. My website is awakenhercoaching.com. And then not my website, my Facebook is Mariah Pettry. And my Instagram is at Mariah Pettry too.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Everyone, you heard all the ways that you can reach Mariah. She has an amazing business where she's helping women And I really want you to reach out because I truly believe that she's one of the people that can really help to not only grow your business, but identify whatever blocks are happening and what's going on in your business. Is there anything you want to leave us with today?
Um, so I think what I want to share really, really fast. It's like 2 minutes. The name of my business is Awaken Her Coaching. And the reason that I named this is because there's a story in the Bible about Jesus. And I believe it is somebody comes up to him and says, my daughter is dead. You need to come and help her. And so he's like, she's not dead. She's just sleeping. And so he goes to the house and he makes everyone leave. And he bends down to the little girl and he said, he grabs a hold of her hand and he says, Talitha cum, which means, little girl, I say to you, arise or awaken. And she gets up. And so many of us, I believe, the reason why I named my business Awaken Her Coaching is because
Wow.
we are stuck in this, mindset of, my business is dead. It's not going anywhere. I might as well give up. But to awaken a woman's faith, to awaken her business, to awaken her to the thought that it is possible. You just need to keep going, keep being consistent, keep showing up for yourself, and God just keep planting seeds. Even if you do nothing else, you're a seed sower and you are sowing seeds wherever you go. And God has a plan for each and every one of us. That's all.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on today. I
You're welcome.
really, really appreciate you. I appreciate the time that we've spent. It's been amazing. I hope everyone watching has gained a lot of value. And guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.